This is adapted from Dlaigo Khyentse Rinpoche. When a rainbow appears vividly in the sky, you can see its beautiful colors, yet you could not wear it as clothing or put it on as an ornament. There is nothing about it that can be grasped. Likewise, thoughts that arise in the mind have no tangible existence or intrinsic solidity. There is no logical reason why thoughts, which have no substance, should have so much power over you, nor is there any reason why you should become their slave. And so it is.
Barbara, thank you. Thank you for your blessings and for being here. Roy, thank you. Always wonderful to see both of you and to see all my old friends. I can't see you all, which is probably just as well. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm probably going to get really up close and personal to you guys on the screen because I have my old glasses on. And I can't quite see like I could if I could find my newer glasses. Hence, they used to tell us in ministerial school, all of this has nothing to do with what I'm going to speak to you about this morning, as you have guessed. In ministerial school, they used to say, the things that people do, as in new ministerial candidates, that really the congregations don't like, and it's not good for the talk, is fiddle with your glasses. That's number one. And number two, men who don't wear long socks. So there you have it. That was some of the wisdom that after close to 20 years, I've taken away from ministerial school. Just having to bring that up for a giggle, because I'd like you all to just giggle, and I would like you all to honor yourselves. Another thing we used to do years ago is to say thank you from the minister to you all for just being here, for choosing to be here. It was a conscious choice. And some of you may put that off as saying, well, no, it isn't. Where else would I be? No, my friends, you actually had to think the thought that thinks the thought to be here this morning. And that's where we're going this morning, is an overall discussion about the art of thinking. And it truly is an art. And as we know in Unity, it is a choice. You can choose to hang on to the drama of the negative thinking, or you can choose to create and co-create with mind a positive understanding. And please be mindful, my friends, we're not talking about positive thinking. We are talking about actually controlling your thinking. And some of us believe that our thinking controls us. And I am here to say to you, no, you can control your thinking. You have a choice in the matter. And I'd like to start out with, Kaywood is going to help me, and I do thank Kaywood. He will be reading from Practical Metaphysics, or at least that's where I'm coming from, by Butterworth. I'm also going to be using some materials this morning from a book that I'm very fond of, and you may find that my talk has little or no coherence because I'm so fond of Meta-Human right now by Deepak Chopra. I have trouble keeping myself in order. And so I allow these thoughts to just kind of drift around. So please be patient with me. I'm very excited about Meta-Human. So there's Practical Metaphysics, there's Meta-Human, and then I have a couple of articles from Science of Mind. And we are going to just touch today on a little bit of neuroscience, okay? And how neuroscience working with our spiritual evolvement brings us to the understanding, and I'll read it straight from Butterworth. You see, you are not what you think. You are thinking what you think. I will repeat. You are not what you think. You are thinking what you think. Okay, we'll explore that just a little bit more, but first what I'd like to do, just to bring you back to the title of my talk, which is making up your bed and making up your mind. I'm going to ask Kaywood to read from this book, Practical Metaphysics, as to what Butterworth said when he overheard an interview with Robert Frost. Kaywood? Kaywood, are you there?
This is from Practical Metaphysics by Eric Butterworth, Chapter 3, The Art of Thinking. I want to give you a little homework assignment. It came to me a number of years ago when I was listening to the radio. I was listening to a radio interview with Robert Frost, the great poet. Someone was asking him to try to explain his tremendous, contagious optimism. How can you always be so positive and optimistic? How can you always be so happy? What's the key? What's the secret to the success of your attitude? Frost said, it seems to me the important things for creative and positive living is man's capacity to mold and shape things. People have the power to mold and shape. Thinking in terms of being a manufacturer, you can shape things as you will. He said, I've decided long since that whenever I face the day, after I wake up, before I go down and listen to the radio or read the newspaper or face my wife or go out into the world, I do two things before anything else. The first thing I do is to make up my bed, and the second thing is to make up my mind. The reason for the first is that it's physical. It's something I can actually do. So I physically make up the bed, straightening up the covers and the sheets and the wrinkles of the bed. But while I'm doing this, I get the feeling of identification with my mind, that I'm making up my mind. I'm getting the wrinkles out of my mind. I'm getting myself organized and orderly. I'm beginning to think the kinds of thoughts I want to think. I make up my bed, then I make up my mind, then I go down and face the world. And I'm secure that no matter what happens, I can be on top of it.
Thank you, Kaywood. I really appreciate that. Where we're going with this is not so much the spending of the time on the making of the bed, although I vote for it because it does put us into a mindset of being orderly, of understanding that we're controlling our world. And many of us, especially these days, don't feel like we're controlling a whole lot. And our world seems to be, and note I said the word seems, out of control. What I would like to emphasize is the making up of our minds. And I think, interestingly enough, Robert Frost came to that early on about making up his bed and making up his mind. And I bring you to the concept of making up your mind with the understanding that we all have that ability to change our thinking, but not just to change our thinking, to actually direct our thinking. And I think that we kind of fall off the truck, so to speak, with the directing of the thinking. If many of us, and this is a part of the Meta-Human book by Deepak Chopra, I'll own that, is if we spent half as much time working our thoughts, controlling and controlling and ordering our thoughts as we do ordering our outside world, as in maybe making the bed, as in making the list of what I'm going to do today, that we would, if we spent more time on the reality of our thinking, would probably have a world that would absolutely be comforting, and we would be facilitating that comfort and that emergence of what is good in our lives and in our worlds. And I say our worlds because I do mean plural, because we have individual worlds that we spend a lot of time ordering. And I'm asking you to take a look at the consciousness that you bring to the world. And what does that mean? That means very often some of us think that our minds, if you will, are in control. And what is happening is we are, and our thinking comes from our minds. The thoughts that we have are from creative consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere present in all things. We know that. And sometimes we forget that we have the control, if you will, and I use that word a lot, and you'll hear me use it a lot. And the reason I'm using it a lot is I think that we feel sometimes, as I said, especially now, out of control. So you have a choice. We always have a choice of what we are going to think about. And with the quote from Robert Frost, I thought, well, that's very deliberate. He's not only making up his world or ordering his world, he's spending time actually making up his mind. How is his day going to be today? What does he want to think about today? Who does he want to be today? And right now, I think that is especially important because we have so much around us that is actually bombarding us that we think we become slaves, or if you will, to that bombardment, that we have no control, when in fact we have the control to say, how are I thinking today? What am I thinking about this? And what am I thinking about myself, more importantly? How am I coming into my world today? How am I ordering my thoughts today? I'm asking you to be very mindful of this. Neuroscience has recently identified several, well, actually over 200 networks that work in our brains. These are networks of thinking. And we have the ability to direct the thinking that goes on and the feeling that goes on in those networks. But we're not mindful of that. We are more mindful, as Deepak Chopra says, and many other scholars, of what's going on in our outside world, and we allow that to impact our thinking. And when we give that over, That's when we get into trouble with things that start out as procrastination and end up as being frozen in time because we are so fearful, we are so worried that we can't make a decision, and we have chosen to capitulate to the thoughts of fear and anger and worry and doubt, all of those kinds of negative types of feelings and types of thinking. And remember, we are spiritual beings. We say that all along. So here, track with me now. If we are spiritual beings, as we say in principle number 1, and we have the gift of spiritual Christed potential within us, we are of consciousness. I call it consciousness. You call it God, you call it the field of knowing, call it what you wish. And if that consciousness is all present in all of us all the time, then we have the ability to access and be that consciousness. Instead, sometimes we make a pact with playing small. Well, yeah, I have the potential, and I know I have the potential, and I can articulate it, and I can intellectualize it, but I don't always own it. And I'm here to submit to you today, please, people, if you don't do anything, own your divine nature. And what does that mean? That means let's know what we know. That means putting it into what I call 9/11 mindfulness. It's one thing to sit and have an esoteric discussion about mindfulness and about consciousness and about subconscious, if you will. We can take it all the way. I'm asking us to take a look at what are we doing in the moment, 24/7, about how we think. And one of the ways that's offered up through the ancients, from the ancients, Deepak's just put it in new words, and so has Butterworth during his time. It's called mindfulness meditation. I didn't say mindfulness prayer, I said mindfulness meditation. And mindfulness meditation asks us to be present in the moment, whether it's in the silence or whether we have a mantra or whether there's a way of breathing, but it asks us to take a moment and be present now in this very moment. And while many of you are already saying, hello, Reverend Sandy, nothing new here, nothing going on here, then I already know you've shut it down. And why are you saying nothing new, nothing going on? Because you may have heard it in some version of this before, mindfulness meditation. Yeah, I know what that is. I do that almost every day. I'm asking you to stop. I'm asking you to do it every hour, if you will. That's the recommended dosage. You can do it as you see fit. But mindfulness meditation requires stopping and breathing wherever you are. It doesn't necessarily require you to set up a pillow, a candle, and be in the corner with the quiet. And you see, that's where I think sometimes we dumb down our prayer work and our meditation. Or, and I say, by dumbing down, we put obstacles in the way of not doing meditation except at appointed hours. You can do mindfulness meditation anywhere, anytime, if you so direct your thinking, if you so direct your thoughts. And one of the ways, and this is a Reverend Sandy way of doing this, and I own this, is it's not just your thinking, it's your heart as well. The thinking and the heart, the brain and the heart need to be in alignment. And very often we think we have to pray. I would say to you, it's the alignment of the head and the heart. And how do you know when you're in alignment? Because you're in fully present awareness of consciousness. And that's the other key of mindfulness meditation. That's why some of us say, and I have been known to say it too, look, aren't you going to give me something new in all this stuff? I've been hearing this same stuff with a new dress on for years. And yes, I'm giving you something new, maybe new for today, maybe not wasn't new yesterday. Awareness. Awareness is one of the great keys to being mindful of how we are thinking and being in this moment. See, if you are aware of how you are in this moment, say you are aware right now of the sink faucet is dripping and I need to fix it after she's done. Or I'm aware that it's a sunny day and I hope this is over with soon. Or I'm aware of what she's saying and it's okay, it's fine, I got it. What you're saying is you're not aware of how you are thinking. You may be aware that you said, I did this, the faucet's ringing, it's dripping and it's sunny outside, but you're not aware of how that thought is impacting your very being, your very consciousness. So while some of this can get dry, I don't want it to be. I want us to understand we have tools that we can work with. And one of the chief tools is, in fact, awareness. Awareness of how we are in the moment is extremely important. And all of you probably have read or know of Eckhart Tolle, who wrote volumes on the silence and being aware in the moment. And you can see during the times that I had him in my life, he was trending very big. We all read him. We all knew the stuff. And then it dipped. And I'm bringing some of that back because I think now, especially in this era of pandemic, of seemingly a broken world, there is no seeming broken at all. That comes from broken thinking. That comes from not cleaning up our thinking. If we believe in a consciousness, in a God that is all good, okay, we're not denying what's going on in our world, but as soon as we give it lip service, we have said, I'm going to think about the broken world today, or for this minute, or for this hour, and I'll get to the good part later. Most of us, I would say, in Unity, and especially this community, no, you probably spend a fair amount, if not most of your time, in trying to be positive. And I'm saying to you, that's wonderful, but this is beyond positive. This is who you are. You are spirit. You are divine, and I want you to own it and be responsible for it. And you notice I'm starting to now get bossy. And that means that I'm getting excited, because once we own this, once we truly say, I am divine and I have an accountability and a responsibility to be that way, not to talk about that way, not to make sure my prayer practice is on time every day, but to make sure if we can, and we can, be of spirit. If we are of spirit, we are of love. We are of the goodness of God. We are in demonstration of God. And we are not sloppy thinking. We are in controlled goodness of thought, because those thoughts are coming in an orderly fashion because we are aware of who we are, divine, and we are taking responsibility for that divinity in how we demonstrate that ownership. We are, if you will, making up our mind that we are going to spend our thinking time, our creative time, our creativity of spirit in our world. That's how we are going to manifest. And we are going to manifest that all the time. So here's a couple of other tips for what we call in the moment mindfulness, which is what I'm giving you today as your access, if you will, to being a 24/7 in the moment mindfulness. And one of them is something you've all heard before, but I think that sometimes we fall short in practice. Be an observer of yourself. How are you? What are you doing? What are you saying? Are you able, and most of us are, to take a step back? The question is, do you take the step back and observe where you are in the moment? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling joyful? Are you observing it? Because when you come from the observer, you are coming from consciousness, from the good of God. And then the second part of mindfulness in the moment is to just be. That's why mindfulness meditation talks about breathing. We all know that what they call the vagal breathing. Some people call it box breathing. In 4, hold it for 2, out for 4. And some of you know that. You could probably say to me, oh, I don't think it's in 4. I think it might be in 6. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is that breathing, that mindfulness of taking a breath says, stop. Be in the space. Be in the now. Okay? And those are 2 very good things that you can pack away in your toolbox of mindfulness meditation. And then also, I would like you to do one other thing. When something good happens, be grateful and say, good. Pat yourself on the back. Good comes from connection. Good comes from God. Good comes from you and from me. And when something good or pleasing or better or peaceful or joyful comes in our world, we have created that. We have attracted it, some would say. And it isn't our doing. It is consciousness being allowed through the portal of awareness that you are. You are a portal of awareness that is allowing infinitely more consciousness into your very being. And you are demonstrating that infinite possibility. You see, consciousness has no boundaries. Consciousness is. Isn't that what we say? God is. The kids say it. No spot where God's not. Our job is through awareness, through mindfulness, meditation, if you will, to being in the moment, to doing all of the tools I just talked about in order that we open the portal that we are to demonstrate a greater possibility of an increased awareness and consciousness of God. And so I thank you very much today for your attention. Kaywood, would you now read the last part of that? This is a little bit of homework coming from Eric Butterworth, and please listen. Once Kaywood is done with that, I'm going to go into meditation, and I'm going to bring up the phrasing from Butterworth about thinking. So listen for it in the meditation, or if you choose to, don't listen to any of it. Just be at peace. Kaywood?
Butterworth says, I want us to use this as an exercise this week. When you wake up in the morning, any morning, even if your partner always makes up the bed, you say, no, wait a minute, I'm going to make up the bed this week. Take a few minutes before you do anything else to make up the bed. Pull the covers up, straighten it all out, get the wrinkles out, and get that sense of identification that while you're doing this, you're getting your mind in order. You're getting yourself in tune to make that sort of identification. You're getting yourself constantly identified with the individualization that you are of divine mind. You live in divine mind, the allness of divine mind. All the creative intelligence of the universe, you live in it. It's here, and you can shape and mold it in any way you wish. As you begin to shape your bed into a nice, orderly arrangement, in the same sense, you're shaping your mind into that which is positive, creative, and self-fulfilling. If you do this simple little exercise, which perhaps is not prayer, but yet, in a very real sense, is probably more prayer than some of the prayers we utter, you will find that you will become more positive, more capable, and more ready to meet the experiences of the day with positive creative power.
Thank you. And now let us all, in these moments, just be still and listen, or not, but whatever, be aware of where you are here and now. We become still and we remind ourselves once again, we live in the medium of infinite mind. The same intelligence that creates the universe is the intelligence that is the essence within every thought of your mind. Every thought of your mind is an expression of infinite intelligence, even the negative thoughts. We realize that thoughts are forced into the molds of human consciousness according to our will or according to our interest. We commit ourselves to thinking the kinds of thoughts that we want to think, the kinds of thoughts that we want to see manifest in our lives, knowing that thoughts produce conditions. We affirm for ourselves here and now, I am not what I think, but I am thinking what I think. And the self of me that thinks has the capacity to think positively. I decide right now that during the week to come, I'm going to think the kinds of thoughts I want to see manifest. I'm not going to react to conditions. I'm going to creatively express the positive power of infinite divine mind. I'm not going to simply be a horizontal thinker, responding and reacting to all the things that are happening in the world. I'm going to be a vertical thinker. I'm going to know that even though it would appear that there are a lot of problems out there, I don't have those problems. People have the problems. The world has the problems. I have the capacity to deal with those problems in a positive way. We make a commitment that this week we are going to discipline ourselves to keep ourselves in constant control of our minds. We're not going to be disturbed or upset if a negative thought comes into our mind, because we're thinkers and thought habits are deep-seated. We're going to know that regardless of the negative thoughts that come into our minds, we cannot identify with them. Instead of saying, just like me, that's the way I am, there's no hope, we can say, I have the power and the capacity to rise above this. And I say to this condition completely, not identifying with it, get thee behind me, get thee hence. I say no. And then I begin to say yes to a lot of wonderful things, positive things, things that I read, things that I see, things that are beautiful around me. I say yes to them and say no to the things that I don't want to be part of my life. And so we say, thank you, sweet spirit. Thank you, consciousness, for this impressing and expressing of love, love in each of us, love in our world. And so it is, and so we let it be. Alleluia. Amen.
Week, as I was deciding what to play today, I reread Sandy's title, Make Up Your Bed and Make Up Your Mind. And I got kind of literal. And I said, well, you can't make up your bed until you get up. And so that led me to think of Bach's Bach it Auf. And so I thought, well, I could play a nice, piano arrangement of that. But then I found something really special. So here is Sleeper's Wake.
I'd like to offer a closing prayer. And what I'd like to do is, after I offer the prayer, which is very freely adapted from L.R. Nost, I'm going to ask us to spend a moment in silence after it, mending the seeming brokenness of the world, mending with our thoughts of peace, with a mending thought that there is no other in spite of color, race, religion. And for me personally, may the awareness of racism bring us closer to its end. Do not be dismayed by the seeming brokenness of the world. All things seem to break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, but intention. Intention to direct our thinking. Intention to observe ourselves. Intention to love. So go. Love intentionally, love extravagantly, love unconditionally. The world waits for the light that is you, the light that mends. And so it is, my mending lovelies.